Good morning. This morning we have two short readings. The first is the message from John 3:18. My dear children, let's not just talk about love, let's practice real love. This is the only way we'll know we're living truly, living in God's reality. The other is an excerpt from What Comes from Spirit by Richard Wagamis. We all have stories within us. Sometimes we hold them gingerly, sometimes desperately, sometimes as gently as an infant. It is only by sharing our stories, by being strong enough to take a risk, both in telling and in asking, that we make it possible to know, recognize, and understand each other.
I'm going to invite us just to have some quiet reflection. We've just taken in some readings, and some words might have come and stirred within us. Maybe we were challenged by something. Maybe the words brought comfort. Maybe they brought questions. Whatever it is, I'll invite us just to sit with these readings just for a couple of minutes. I am so thankful, and we are so honored to have Mizzy Walker in not only here this morning, but in our community. Mizzy came to Knox just about Easter time and has since shown up in so many different ways in our community. Mizzy describes themselves as a passionate truth teller and advocate for truth and reconciliation. And we have experienced that and experienced them as a change maker in this community, but also in the world. We are wrapping up our series on change makers and all the different ways that we might step into that work. And I think that you will hear through Mizzy that that is the work. It is not just reflecting, but it is action. Mizzy is a student at the University of Calgary in International Indigenous Studies and Psychology, but through her daily actions, she supports people in the community with Indigenous ways of healing and reconciliation. And I know that her words will stir us once again. So welcome, Mizzy.
Okay. Well, first, I already said it, but itan ginastani Knox, so good morning. I want to share with you the lesson of Indigenous survivance. It is how many Indigenous people take power back and survive. And being an oral culture, this comes through most effectively in story. I must share with you the importance of survivance. This summer, I felt my story was coming to an end. I was taken to the Foothills Hospital and was diagnosed with a massive pulmonary embolism, and my chances of survival were not very high. I was doing everything I could to tell the people close to me that I loved them and to continue my work. But as I looked at the end of my hospital bed, I saw my father with his arms crossed, shaking his head, saying, "It's not time yet. It's not time to come home." And that I had more work to do. So here I am, a month later, to talk to you today and to continue to share Indigenous stories. So this is the story I chose. It is the story of a boy named Channy Wenjack. Channy grew up in the Ogoki Post in the Martin Falls Reserve with his parents, sisters, and 2 dogs. Ogoki Post did not have a day school, so at the age of 9, Channy and 3 of his sisters were sent to Cecilia Jeffrey Indian Residential School, more than 600 kilometers away, where he was given the English name, Charlie. Located near Kenora, Ontario, the Cecilia Jeffrey Residential School was run by Women's Ministry Society of the Presbyterian Church in Canada and paid by the federal government during the 1960s. 150 students lived at Cecilia Jeffrey. On October 16, 1966, Channy and 2 of his friends escaped from Cecilia Jeffrey School. They were wearing only light cotton clothes when they ran away. This was Channy's first and last attempt at escape. His friends shared that he ran away because he wanted to find his father and he needed to go home. In his escape, Channy followed his 2 friends to the cabin of their uncle, Charles Kelly, near Reddit, Ontario. On the first day of their escape, they walked over 8 hours before stopping at a friendly home for the night. After they arrived at the cabin, Kelly took his nephews to his trap line. Channy walked nearly 5 kilometers to meet them, to settle alone to find his father. Kelly advised him to follow the railroad tracks and to ask railway workers for food. And Channy only carried a glass jar with a few matches. Channy survived for the next 36 hours. The weather turned harsh, the snow squalls, and the freezing rain. The temperature went down to between -1 and -7, with only a cotton windbreaker and no food. Channy covered 19 kilometers on foot. When he was found, his body was bruised from repeated falls. Channy died on the morning of October 23rd, 1966, 1 week after he escaped from the Cecilia Jeffrey School. He died of exposure and hunger. A Canadian National Railway engineer passing on the freight train discovered his body beside the track. He was over 60 kilometers from the residential school. This young Anishinaabe boy from Ontario ran away at the age of 12 and lost his life doing so. But his tragic end was not in vain. His death sparked the national attention and the first inquest into the treatment of Indigenous children at the Canadian residential schools. In August of 2016, Gord Downey of the Tragically Hip, for all my Canadian friends here, asked all Canadians to look into the state of Indigenous settler relations in this country and to do something. Do something. To change them for the better. Build relationships. Hear our stories. Help us fight for equality and true reconciliation. In December of 2016, Gord was given the Lakota spirit name Wikapi Omani, which can be translated as the man who walks amongst the stars, for his reconciliation. In October of 2017, Gord Downey passed away with terminal brain cancer. His legacy, messages of hope, and powerful calls to action live on. He had dedicated his final legacy to creating lasting positive change in Canada for Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, this creating the Downey and Wenjack Fund. Before his passing, Gord released The Secret Path on October 18th on a vinyl and a graphic novel. It was then adapted into a short film narrated with Gord's voice, singing as Channy. I would like to share 2 short songs of The Secret Path with you.
And I hear, and hear. You sign here, and here.
Sorry. The man who walks amongst the stars was a non-Indigenous person who felt connection with the story of Channy and Indigenous people and children who never got to come home. This created a forever survivance story for that young boy who lost his life trying to get home. And Gord Downey, Canada's frontman, my only hope is that, as depicted in the end of The Secret Path, Channy did make it home to his dad in spirit. And Gord is amongst the stars, forever encouraging us to walk forever together as people, as Canadians. In memory of Gord, I'm also asking you to do something. On September 30th, 2024, tomorrow, help us in our survivance stories, because as long as our stories live, we will truly never die. We'll all in. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzie. We're going to continue and have a chance to have a conversation with Mizzy.
Mizzy asked us that we would not just stop there, but to just have some time just for some conversation following that poignant invitation to us all. I think that this is a good reminder and model, Mizzy, for us to take steps forward. That we hear the stories, that stories are told, and then there's an invitation to action, but also further conversation. And so I thank you for that invitation today. And I'm wondering if you could tell us why you keep showing up and helping tell the stories.
Because that's why Creator put me here. Life has never been an easy path for me or many Indigenous people, but we survived. We were like, there was one time where we wanted, like, this country wanted to destroy us. They didn't want us here, even though we welcomed them with open arms, but we survived, and that must mean something. My father was a residential school survivor who saved me from a very similar path and moved me all the way from Mi'kmaq territory to here to escape so I could have a fresh start. That my parents gave up their entire lives so I could start mine. So in their remembrance, because they've passed some time ago, that's why I show up. For them, for the Indigenous children that I see at powwows, and the young people who I hope will never have to see the things that I've saw.
Thank you, Mizzy. Reflecting on what you shared, often we hear, what can I do? And you demonstrate so beautifully listening to Spirit, and I can't help but think, maybe this was part of why my ancestors, settlers, didn't understand the culture, because we felt disconnected. I have a friend of mine, she's a Two-Spirit Potawatomi woman, and she often says, in one story, you left the garden. In our story, we never left. So I have to ask, who would we be if we never left the garden, if we realized we have a connection to Spirit? So, you listen to Spirit. What would you say to all the people out here looking who, like Gord, listen to Spirit, who maybe don't know how to? What would you say? How can you people do something and listen to Spirit the way you do?
Something that I've noticed from growing up in Western culture and living in the two-eyed way of knowing and living. A lot of Western culture, it's a culture of control, a culture that requires safety with control. If we truly want to be connected with Spirit, the Great Spirit Creator, sometimes it's just putting your hands up and just saying, just take me where you need me. Lots of people, especially going to university, ask, what do you want to do? And I say, I don't know. I'll go wherever Creator needs me to go. But that's not something that you can plan. So I often urge people to have the courage to just let go. Listen to that inner voice, because that inner voice is the voice of Creator that was given to us when we were born. Many Indigenous people, like you said, I've never read the Bible, so I apologize. But yeah, leaving the garden, and we never left. We never stopped listening. We rely on the land and the earth, the sky, and the people that are in it. That's why when you look at the medicine wheel, it has the 4 colors of all people. We can't exist without one another.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, as a community, we try to live in hope, like a hope for a better future for everybody. And part of that is not just hoping, but putting hope into action. But I'm wondering what gives you hope
to get up every day and do this work?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. What gives me hope? Yesterday we went to powwow, and I saw these little ones just dancing so freely, being able to be indigenous without any fear. They will never have that fear that I did as a little girl, coming here and having my dad tell me, don't tell anybody you're indigenous. Don't talk about it, because back then it wasn't safe. But my hope I see with indigenous children going to school, speaking their languages, dancing. That gives me hope.
That image of dancing freely and in hope and in peace should walk with us, maybe dance with us this week, as we also try to step into that in some way. And this is one of those things where the conversation is so brief, and yet it is so deep, and it is so wide, and it is hopefully the start of more conversations that invite us into more. So thank you for being willing to step into that with us. And I know that you are open to more conversations even after the service today.
It's important.
It is important.
It's important for indigenous people not to be afraid to speak the truth. It's something that I still fear every day, because you don't know how people will receive it. So, again, it's about just letting go of that control and trusting that we're all here for a reason. We all survive things for a reason. We all have purpose as people. So please just listen to Indigenous voices openly without trying to fix something. We're not asking for fixes, because what has happened can never be fixed. All that we can do is go forward and fight for the injustices that we face, and be honest when we see them, and say something when we see them, and not turn that blind eye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mizzy, for being with us.
I'll just share some love and appreciation for Mizzy together.